The transport ship shook as it docked with station. Inside, one pressed his face against the window and stared at the massive military academy floating in space. Lights covered every surface of the station. Ships came and went like insects around a hive. This was it. This was where Earth's best would prove themselves to the galaxy. "Stop looking so nervous," Li Yang said from the seat behind him. "We've got this." One turned around and gave his friend a tired smile. "I'm not nervous, I'm just thinking." "That's even worse," Yang laughed. "You think too much." Park Sun looked up from her data pad. Her eyes were red from reading reports all night. "He should think. Do you know what the graduation rate is here? 30%. Most cadets wash out in the first month." "Thanks for that, son," Nayoung said quietly. She was checking her medical supplies for the third time. "Really helps with the nerves." The ship's computer announced their arrival. One stood up and grabbed his bag. He had been a Marine sergeant back on Earth. He had trained hundreds of soldiers. He had seen combat, but this was different. This time, humanity was being judged. Earth had only made contact with the galactic community 3 years ago. Humans were the new species, the unknowns. Every move they made reflected on their entire planet. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in. One stepped onto the station and immediately felt the difference. The gravity was heavier here, not by much, but enough to notice. His boots felt like they had weights attached. "Is it just me, or does everything feel heavier?" Nayoung asked. Sun was already checking her data pad. Station gravity is set to 1.2 g, that's the galactic standard. Most species evolved on worlds with slightly more gravity than Earth. Yang groaned. "Great, so we're starting at a disadvantage." They followed the signs to the main assembly hall. The corridors were huge, built to accommodate species of all sizes. A creature that looked like a walking tree passed them, its bark-like skin creaking with each step. 2 small aliens with blue skin and 6 arms passed, chattering in a language that sounded like music. One had seen aliens before on the news and in training videos, but being surrounded by them was different. He felt very aware of being human, of being new. The assembly hall could hold thousands. Cadets from dozens of species filled the seats. One and his squad found empty seats near the back. They were the only humans in sight. A massive alien walked onto the stage. It had 4 arms, skin covered in scars, and eyes that glowed yellow. The crowd went silent immediately. "I am Commandant Or," the alien's voice boomed through speakers. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy. You are here because your worlds believe you are the best they have to offer. Most of you are wrong." Nervous laughter rippled through the hall. "This academy has trained warriors for 600 years, Or continued. "We do not care about your species. We do not care about your politics. We care only about one thing. Can you fight when the galaxy needs you?" The Commandant's eyes swept across the crowd. 70% of you will fail, not because you are weak, not because you are stupid, but because your bodies cannot handle what we demand. The galaxy is not kind. Some worlds have crushing gravity, some have toxic air, some have temperatures that will boil or freeze you. If your biology limits you, you will wash out. There is no shame in that, but there is no room for those who cannot adapt. One felt his stomach tight. Biology, physical limits. He thought about Earth's 1g gravity compared to the 1.2g he was feeling right now. Humans had evolved on a lighter world than most of the galaxy. That meant they were probably weaker, slower, more fragile. After the ceremony, the squads were assigned to their instructors. Human Squad 7 stood at attention in a small training room. Their instructor walked in, and one recognized the species immediately. 4 arms, incredibly strong, known as some of the best warriors in the galaxy. "I am Instructor," they said. His voice was deep and rough. "I have trained cadets for 20 years. I have seen species rise to glory and fall to dust." He walked slowly in front of them, studying each human carefully. "Humans," said the word like he was tasting something sour. "Your species was admitted to this academy 3 cycles ago. The council debated for months. Many, including myself, voted against your admission." One kept his face neutral, but inside he felt anger building. "Humans have fragile bones," continued. "Your muscle density is below average. Yours is only 1g, lighter than most civilized planets. You have no natural armor, no enhanced senses, no biological weapons." He stopped in front of one. "Tell me, cadet, why should I waste my time training a species that will never match the physical capabilities of others?" One met the instructor's yellow eyes. "Because we're here anyway, sir, and we don't plan on failing." Stared at him for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Confidence. That's something at least. Tomorrow you will run the standard obstacle course. If you cannot complete it, you will be assigned to support roles. Engineers, technicians, not warriors." The next morning, Human Squad 7 stood at the starting line of the obstacle course. The course stretched for 2 kilometers and included climbing walls, balance beams, rope swings, and tunnels. 20 other squads waited at their starting positions. Most of the aliens were bigger than the humans. Some had more arms. Some had natural advantages like tails for balance or claws for climbing. The buzzer sounded, one ran. The gravity pulled at him with every step. His lungs burned. His legs felt heavy. Around him, alien cadets moved with practiced ease. A squad of 6-armed climbers reached the first wall and scaled it in seconds. A team of 4-legged runners bounded ahead like deer. But one kept running. Behind him, he heard Yang breathing hard. Sun and Nayung were keeping pace. They weren't first. They weren't last. They were middle of the pack, exactly as expected for a species at a physical disadvantage. They finished in 43 minutes. 12 squads finished before them. 8 squads finished after them. Watched them cross the finish line and made notes on his data pad. He didn't say anything. That night, one lay in his bunk and stared at the ceiling. They had finished the course. They hadn't failed, but they hadn't impressed anyone either. They were just another squad, barely keeping up with everyone else. "Hey," Yang called from the bunk below. "We did okay today." "We did average," one replied. "Average doesn't get you kicked out," Sun added. "We survive first, then we improve." One wanted to believe that, but he couldn't shake the feeling that was right. Humans were at a disadvantage. Their biology was limiting them before they even started. The next morning announced their next challenge: environmental adaptability training in the Chamber of Extremes. It was where cadets faced hostile conditions and proved they could adapt to any world. The failure rate was 60%. One looked at his squad. They were tired, sore, and already struggling with the station's gravity. Now they had to face something worse. But they were here. Earth had sent them, and they weren't going to quit on day 2. "When do we start?" one asked. His yellow eyes gleamed. "Tomorrow, rest well, humans, you will need it." The Chamber of Extremes was the largest training facility on station. One stood with his squad outside the massive doors and felt his heart pounding. Other squads waited around them, talking in low voices. Some looked confident. Others looked scared. Stood at the front of the group. "Inside this chamber, we can create any environment found in the galaxy: extreme heat, freezing cold, toxic atmospheres, and gravity." He paused. "Today, you will face increasing gravity while completing tactical objectives. Your mission is simple: retrieve data cores and bring them to the extraction point. The gravity will increase every 30 minutes. When you cannot continue, you signal for extraction." A tall alien with rock-like skin raised one of his 3 arms. "What is the highest gravity level?" "That depends on how long you last," replied. "The record is 3.2 G. Most squads tap out at 2 G. Sun leaned close to one. "Earth is 1 G. The station is 1.2 G. We're going to be at a serious disadvantage." "We knew this wouldn't be easy," one whispered back. The doors opened. The chamber inside was enormous, like a hangar bay. Obstacles were scattered across the floor. Walls to climb, trenches to cross, platforms at different heights. 20 squads entered and spread out to their starting positions. Human Squad 7 took position 14. "Phase 1 begins in 30 seconds, voice came through speakers. "Starting gravity, 1.5 G. Objectives are marked in blue. Move." The gravity increased suddenly. One felt like someone had piled weights on his shoulders. His knees bent slightly under the extra pressure. Around him, his squad adjusted their stances. "I feel like I'm wearing a heavy backpack," Nayung said. "Keep moving," one ordered. "Don't think about it." They ran toward the first objective marker. Running felt wrong. Each step took more effort. His boots hit the ground harder, but they could still move. Around them, other squads were moving too. The rock-skinned aliens moved like they didn't even notice the extra gravity. The 6-armed climbers were already scrambling up a wall. Human Squad 7 reached their first data core. It was a small cylinder sitting on a platform 3 meters high. Yang climbed up using handholds on the side. In normal gravity, it would have been easy. At 1.5 G, each pull-up was twice as hard. He grabbed the core and tossed it down to Sun. "One down," Yang called. "How many more?" "3 per squad," one replied. They moved to the second objective. 30 minutes passed. His voice announced the change. Phase 2, gravity increasing to. The weight doubled. One's legs trembled. Around him, some of the smaller aliens stumbled. A squad of bird-like creatures with hollow bones stopped moving entirely. Their squad leader signaled for extraction. "This is bad," Sun said. She was breathing hard. "At 2 G, we each weigh twice what we normally do." "Then we move slower," one said, "but we keep moving." The rock-skinned aliens were still moving easily. The 4-legged runners had slowed down but were still functional. Human Squad 7 pushed forward. Every step was a fight against gravity. One's back ached. His thighs burned. But they reached the second data core. This one was at the bottom of a trench. Nayoung climbed down carefully. In 2G, a fall would hurt twice as bad. She grabbed the core and one helped pull her back up. His arms shook with the effort. More squads were dropping out. The bird-like aliens were all gone. Some of the six-armed climbers had given up. Even some of the bigger species were struggling. Phase 3. Gravity increasing to 2.5 G. One almost fell when the gravity increased again. It felt like a giant hand was pushing down on him. His vision blurred for a moment. He heard Nayoung gasp. Yang dropped to one knee. "Get up," one said through gritted teeth. "We're not done." Around them, the chamber had become a scene of struggle. Only 8 squads were still moving. The rock-skinned aliens were moving slowly now, each step careful and deliberate. The 4-legged runners had stopped entirely, their legs shaking under their own weight. Human Squad 7 crawled toward the third objective. Crawling was easier than walking. The gravity pressed them down, but at least they weren't fighting it vertically. The third data core was behind a barrier. They had to lift it to get over. "Together," one said. All 4 of them grabbed the barrier and lifted. In normal gravity, it would have been light. At 2.5 G, it felt like lifting a car. They got it up just enough to squeeze under. Yang grabbed the third core. "Got it, now what?" "Extraction point is 50 meters that way," Sun pointed. 50 meters might as well have been 50 kilometers. One stood up and immediately regretted it. His knees nearly gave out, but he stayed up. He started walking. Each step was agony. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. Sweat poured down his face. Behind him, his squad followed. They moved like old people, slow and careful, but they moved. Other squads watched them pass. A cadet lay on the ground, unable to stand. He stared at the humans with wide eyes. How were they still moving? They were almost at the extraction point when one heard screaming from another part of the chamber. A bird-like alien had tried to move and collapsed. Nayoung immediately changed direction. "Nayoung, what are you doing?" one called. "Someone's hurt," she replied. "We're at 2.5 G. You can barely move yourself." "I'm a medic," Nayoung said simply. She crawled toward the injured alien. One wanted to order her back, but he knew she wouldn't listen. Instead, he followed her. The injured alien was from a different squad. Its wing was bent at a wrong angle. Nayoung examined it carefully, her hands gentle despite the crushing gravity. "Broken," she said. "I need to stabilize it before extraction." She worked quickly, wrapping the wing against the alien's body. The alien made soft chirping sounds that might have been thanks. When she finished, she signaled for a medical extraction. Drones came in and carefully lifted the injured cadet. They reached the extraction point 5 minutes before time ran out. They were the last squad to make it, but they made it. The gravity decreased back to normal. One collapsed immediately. His whole body felt like jelly. Around him, his squad was in similar condition. They lay on the floor, breathing hard, staring at the ceiling. Walked over and looked down at them. "You completed all objectives. You also delayed your extraction to help a cadet from another squad. That was foolish." "With respect, sir," Nayoung said between breaths, "that's my job." Was quiet for a moment, then he made a note on his data pad. "Rest. Tomorrow we continue training." That night one could barely move. Every muscle ached. Sun lay in her bunk looking at data on her pad. Even lifting the pad seemed to hurt her. "I've been looking at the numbers," Sun said. "Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds with 1.1 to 1.3 G. Earth is exactly 1 G. We're from a lighter world than almost everyone here." "That explains why everything is so hard," Yang groaned. "But look at this," Sun continued. "At 2.5 G, most species can't function. Their organs compress. Their bones can't handle the stress, but we were still moving, slowly but moving." So one asked, "So maybe being from a lighter world isn't just a disadvantage. Maybe it means we're more adaptable. Our bodies aren't optimized for heavy gravity, but they also aren't optimized against it." "That's a nice theory," Yang said, "but I still feel like I got hit by a truck." "Me too," Sun admitted. One closed his eyes. They had survived Phase 3. Only 8 squads out of 20 had made it that far. Human Squad 7 was still in the game. But he couldn't shake the memory of that moment when gravity hit 2.5 G and he thought his legs would break. What if it went higher? What if the next phase was 3 G? Or 3.5 G? How much could the human body really take? His communicator beeped. A message from "Training continues tomorrow, 600 hours, Chamber of Extremes. Phase 4 begins at 3 G. One stared at the message. 3G 20% higher than what almost broke them today. "Did you all get that message?" he asked. 3 tired voices confirmed they had. "We'll handle it," Yang said, trying to sound confident. "We handled 2.5G, we can handle 3G. "Maybe," Sun said quietly, "but what if something goes wrong? Nobody answered. They all knew that in a gravity chamber when things went wrong people died. The pressure could crush organs, snap bones, stop hearts. One forced himself to sit up despite the pain. Then we watch each other's backs like always. We're a squad. We get through this together. His team nodded, but he could see the fear in their eyes. Tomorrow would be their hardest test yet. And somewhere in the back of his mind, one wondered if humans really belonged here, training with species that had evolved for these conditions. But they were here now, and Marines didn't quit. Morning came too soon. One's body screamed at him when he tried to get out of bed. Every muscle was sore. His joints felt stiff, but he got up anyway. His squad was counting on him. In the mess hall, they ate breakfast in silence. Other cadets gave them respectful nods. Word had spread about Human Squad 7 helping the injured bird alien yesterday. In a place where most species focused only on their own survival, the humans had stopped to help someone else. "Think we're ready for 3G?" Yang asked, pushing food around his plate. "No," Sun said honestly, "but we're doing it anyway." They arrived at the Chamber of Extremes at 600 hours. Only 6 squads showed up. 2 squads from yesterday had withdrawn from the exercise. The rock-skinned aliens were there, looking confident. The 4-legged runners were there, though they looked nervous. A squad of stood together, talking quietly, and 2 other squads that one didn't recognize stood at the entrance. Phase 4 is different. Gravity will start at 3G. There are no objectives. Your only goal is to move from the entrance to the exit on the far side. Distance, 100 meters. Complete this and you pass environmental training. 100 meters. In 3G, one did the math in his head. At 3G, he would weigh about 210 kilograms. He would have to carry more than double his body weight across the length of a football field. "You have 30 minutes, continued. If you cannot finish in time, signal for extraction. If you try to push beyond your limits and collapse, medical teams will retrieve you. If you are injured due to your own stubbornness, that injury is your responsibility." The doors opened. The 6 squads entered. The chamber was simpler today. No obstacles, no platforms, just a flat floor with an exit on the far side. It looked easy. It wouldn't be. "Beginning in 10 seconds, his voice announced. Gravity increasing to 3G in 3, 2, 1. The world became heavy. One felt like a mountain had been dropped on his shoulders. His knees buckled. He caught himself with his hands, suddenly on all fours like an animal. Around him, every cadet had the same reaction. Even the rock-skinned aliens had dropped to a crouch. Breathing was hard. Each breath took effort. One's ribs felt compressed. His heart pounded, working overtime to pump blood through his body against the increased gravity. "Sound off," he gasped. "Here," Sun wheezed. "Alive," Yang groaned. "Present," Nayoung managed. One forced himself to look around. The other squads were in bad shape. One of the 4-legged runners was already down, unconscious. Its squad leader signaled for extraction immediately. They were on their knees, their forearms braced against the ground. The rock-skinned aliens were moving, but even they looked strained. "We move together," one said. "Crawl if you have to, but we move." They started crawling. Each movement was agony. One's arms shook with effort. His fingers pressed into the floor, searching for grip. 10 meters felt like 10 kilometers. A loud grinding sound echoed through the chamber. "That's not normal," Sun said. The lights flickered. For a moment the gravity seemed to waver. Then it stabilized. "Attention," his voice came through the speakers, and he sounded concerned. "We are experiencing a minor technical issue. Continue your exercise. Technicians are investigating." One didn't like the sound of that. Minor technical issues in a gravity chamber could become major very quickly. But they kept crawling. They had made it 20 meters when the grinding sound came again, louder this time. The gravity increased. It wasn't supposed to do that. This was Phase 4. It was supposed to stay at 3G, but one felt the weight increase. His arms gave out and he collapsed flat against the floor. "What's happening?" Nayoung cried. Around them, other cadets were collapsing too. They were flat on their backs, unable to move. The rock-skinned aliens had stopped advancing. "Emergency alert," his voice was urgent now. "All cadets, signal for extraction immediately. We have a system malfunction. Gravity is increasing beyond safe parameters." One tried to move his arm to hit his extraction beacon. His arm wouldn't respond. The gravity was too much. He turned his head with great effort and saw his squad. Yang was flat on his stomach, his face pressed against the floor. Sun was trying to reach her beacon, but her hand was shaking so badly she couldn't hit the button. Nayoung wasn't moving at all. "Chamber lockdown initiated," a computer voice announced. "Emergency protocol engaged. Manual override required." "What does that mean?" someone screamed. His voice came back, and for the first time one heard fear in it. The chamber has entered emergency lockdown. The doors are sealed until we can override the system manually. Gravity is currently at 3.2 G and continuing to increase. All cadets remain calm. We are working on the override now. Remain calm. Easy to say when you weren't being crushed by your own weight. One could feel his ribs compressing. Each breath was a struggle. His vision was starting to blur at the edges. Around him, he heard crying. Someone was screaming for their mother in a language he didn't understand. Time estimate for override, someone outside the chamber asked. 45 minutes minimum, a technician's voice replied. The coolant system failed and locked everything down. We have to manually bypass 3 separate systems. Gravity is at 3.4 G, another voice reported, increasing by zero point 0.1 every 5 minutes. One did the math through his pain-fogged brain. In 45 minutes the gravity would be at, what, 4.3 G, maybe higher. Status report on cadets, demanded. All non-human cadets are completely immobilized, someone replied. They are entering dangerous compression territory. The bird species are unconscious. The bones are beginning to fracture under his own weight. And the humans? There was a pause. One heard surprise in the voice that answered, Sir, one of the humans is moving. One heard scraping sounds nearby. He turned his head, a movement that took enormous effort. Yang was crawling. Somehow, impossibly, Yang was dragging himself forward. Yang, one croaked, what are you doing? Getting, Yang gasped between efforts, too, the bird alien needs help. He was right. The bird alien squad was closest to them and 2 of them were unconscious. At 3.4 G and rising, unconscious meant dying. Their hollow bones would collapse. Their organs would fail. I'll help, Sun said. She was moving too, pulling herself forward with her arms. One wanted to tell them to stop, to conserve their energy, to save themselves. But he knew they wouldn't listen. And deep down, he knew they were right. If they did nothing, cadets would die. He forced his arms to move. Pain shot through every nerve. His muscles felt like they were tearing, but he moved. One pull forward, then another. Gravity at 3.5 G, the computer voice announced cheerfully, unaware of the suffering it was causing. Nayoung suddenly moved beside him. She had been so still that one had thought she was unconscious. But she was awake, and she was crawling toward the massive alien whose bones were fracturing under his own weight. Nayoung, no, one tried to say, but his voice came out as barely a whisper. Outside the chamber, pressed against the reinforced glass, watched in disbelief. Every alien cadet was down. The strongest species in the galaxy couldn't move at 3.5 G, their biology simply wasn't built for it. But the humans were moving. Slowly, agonizingly, but they were moving. Yang reached the first bird alien. He checked for breathing, then started trying to drag the unconscious cadet toward the exit. It was impossible. The bird alien weighed only 40 kilograms normally, but at 3.5 G, it weighed 140 kilograms. Yang weighed 240 kilograms under his own body weight. He was trying to drag the equivalent of a full-grown human while carrying a refrigerator on his back. But he was doing it, centimeter by centimeter. Sun reached the second bird alien. She positioned herself to push instead of drag, using her legs, stronger muscles, better leverage. Nayoung was trying to stabilize the massive alien was conscious but couldn't speak. His eyes followed her movements as she worked. She couldn't move him. He weighed over half a ton at current gravity, but she could try to keep him stable, keep his breathing clear. One crawled toward a cadet who was turning blue. Their species needed more oxygen than most, and the compressed lungs couldn't get enough. He had no idea how to help, but he had to try something. Gravity at 3.6 G, the computer announced. One's vision went dark for a moment. When it cleared, he was still moving forward. His body was operating on pure instinct now, beyond conscious thought. His voice came through the speakers, shaking. Humans, what are you doing? You need to preserve your own lives. Stop moving. We will extract everyone as soon as we can. Yang had dragged the bird alien 5 meters closer to the exit. He collapsed, gasping, his face red with effort. Then he started crawling again, pulling the alien behind him. Not leaving anyone, Yang managed to say. Your biology can't handle this, insisted. Humans evolved on a 1G world. You should be as immobilized as everyone else. You should be dying. Maybe, Sun gasped as she pushed her bird alien forward another few centimeters. But we're not. Gravity at 3.7 G. One felt something give in his back. A muscle tore or a vertebra compressed, he wasn't sure which. The pain was enormous, but he kept moving. He reached and tried to position the alien's head better to help breathing. His yellow eyes focused on him with confusion and wonder. Why was this fragile human, from a light gravity world, still moving when mighty could not? One didn't have an answer. He just knew that giving up wasn't an option. Marines didn't leave people behind. It didn't matter if those people were aliens. It didn't matter if saving them was impossible. You tried anyway. Override at 20 minutes, a technician reported. But gravity is at 3.8 G. Even if we get it down now, there may be permanent injuries. The humans are going to kill themselves trying to move at this weight. Stared through the glass at the 4 humans crawling across the chamber floor, dragging unconscious aliens, refusing to give up even as their bodies broke under impossible weight. He had trained cadets for 20 years. He had seen every species in the galaxy attempt these challenges. He had seen the strongest warriors, the fiercest predators, the most adaptable survivors. He had never seen anything like this. What kind of world creates a species like this? He whispered. Gravity at 3.8 G, the computer voice announced. One collapsed. His arms finally gave out completely. He lay face down on the floor, every breath a battle. He had managed to drag the cadet 3 meters closer to the exit, 3 meters out of 100. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Round him, the other humans were in similar states. Yang had gone still after moving his bird alien 7 meters. Sun had collapsed beside her rescue. Nayoung was lying next to her hand still touching the massive alien's arm in a gesture of comfort. 15 minutes to override, a technician called out. The humans are down, another voice reported. All cadets are now immobilized. Felt his heart sinking. The humans had done the impossible just by moving at all, but it hadn't been enough. In 15 minutes the gravity would be at 4.1 G. At that level, organs would start to fail. Bones would shatter. People would die. Can we speed up the override? Demanded. We're moving as fast as we can, sir. One wrong move and we could make it worse. Slammed his fist against the control panel. His species was known for emotional control, but watching cadets die while unable to help was breaking something inside him. Then he saw movement. Yang was doing push-ups. It was impossible. At 3.8 G, the human weighed over 240 kilograms. A push-up at that weight should have been physically impossible, but Yang's arms were shaking, his whole body trembling, and he was lifting himself up. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters. He collapsed back down, lay still for 5 seconds, then did it again. Activated his communicator, his voice breaking with confusion and desperation. Human Li Yang, why are you doing push-ups? Yang didn't stop. His voice came out in gasps between each rep. 7, keeping. 8, blood. 9, flowing. 10, sir. That's insane, a technician whispered. But Sun was moving again too. She wasn't doing push-ups. She was crawling. Her pace was even slower than before, but she was moving. She was dragging herself toward another unconscious cadet, one she hadn't reached yet. He's right, Sun gasped, her voice barely audible. If we stay still, blood pools, we pass out, moving keeps us conscious. One heard them. Through the fog of pain, through the crushing weight, he heard his squad still fighting. He forced his head up. It felt like lifting a boulder. His vision was mostly dark, just a small tunnel of light in the center. But he could see Yang doing another push-up, could see Sun crawling. Marines don't quit. He put his hands under his shoulders. He pushed. His arm screamed. Something in his shoulder made a popping sound, but he lifted himself up a few centimeters, collapsed, did it again. They're all moving again, someone said in awe. Nayoung was the last to move. She couldn't do push-ups. She could barely crawl, but she was turning her head back and forth, checking on the cadets around her, making sure airways were clear, doing what she could. Gravity at 3.9 G, the computer announced. 10 minutes to override. Yang stopped doing push-ups. He started crawling again, pulling his bird alien. He had gone 10 meters now. He collapsed after 2 more meters, did 5 push-ups, started crawling again. He was keeping his blood flowing, preventing blackout. It was brilliant and insane at the same time. One tried to copy the technique, push-ups to keep conscious, crawling to move forward. His body was operating beyond pain now, beyond rational thought. He was pure stubborn determination. He reached another cadet, one of the rock-skinned aliens. The alien's stone-like eyes were open, aware. One grabbed the alien's arm and pulled. The alien weighed at least 180 kilograms normally. At 3.9 G, that was over 700 kilograms. One pulled anyway. The alien moved half a centimeter. Don't, the alien whispered in broken galactic standard. Save yourself. One pulled again, another centimeter. No one gets left. Round the chamber, other cadets who were still conscious watched in amazement. The humans were breaking themselves to save aliens they barely knew, species they had met days ago. It made no logical sense. Gravity at 4G. One's vision went completely black. He was blind now. his brain unable to process visual information while fighting to keep his body alive. He felt for the alien's arm and kept pulling. 5 minutes to override, but gravity is at 4G, even the won't survive much longer. Was pulling at the control panels himself now, trying to help the technicians work faster. His hands were shaking. In 20 years of teaching, he had never lost a cadet during training. Today he might lose dozens. "Sir, look," one of his assistants said, pointing at a monitor. The monitor showed vital signs. Most of the cadets were in critical condition, heart rates dangerously high, blood oxygen dangerously low, but they were stable for now. The humans' vital signs were chaos. Their hearts were beating at over 180 beats per minute. Their blood pressure was through the roof. Every system in their bodies was screaming in overload. But they were still moving. Yang had gotten his bird alien 15 meters from the exit. The alien had a chance now. If the override worked, medical teams could reach that far quickly. Sun had positioned 3 cadets closer to the exit. She collapsed and didn't get up again. Her vital signs were still there, but she was unconscious. Nayoung had stabilized the as best she could and was trying to crawl toward another cadet. She made it 2 meters before collapsing. One had moved the rock-skinned alien 3 meters. He tried to do another push-up to keep his blood flowing. His arms wouldn't respond. He was done. He lay on the floor, gasping, feeling his consciousness slipping away. Gravity at 4.1 G. 2 minutes to override. We're losing cadets. 3 have gone into cardiac arrest. Medical teams were standing by at every exit, ready to rush in the moment the gravity dropped. Watch the timer count down. 2 minutes, 120 seconds. Each second felt like an hour. "Sir, the humans," someone said, "look at what they've done." Looked at the chamber map. Before the malfunction, cadets had been spread across the chamber. Now, thanks to 4 humans who refused to quit, 23 cadets were positioned within 15 meters of the exit, close enough for quick extraction once the doors opened. 7 cadets were too far away, including 1. Override in 60 seconds. Yang suddenly moved again. He wasn't doing push-ups anymore. He was barely crawling, but he was crawling toward one who was too far from the exit. "What is he doing?" said. "He's going away from the exit." Yang reached one, grabbed his squad leader's arm, started pulling. He was trying to drag one closer to the exit. "He's going to kill himself," a technician said. "His vitals are critical. He needs to stay still." But Yang kept pulling. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, he collapsed, lay still for 10 seconds, then pulled again. 30 seconds to override. Gravity at 4.2 G. The weight was crushing. One could feel his ribs bending. Something inside his chest felt wrong. He tried to tell Yang to leave him to save himself. No sound came out. Yang pulled him another meter. 10 seconds. Override engaged, gravity decreasing. The weight began to lift, slowly at first. 4.2 G, 4 G, 3.8 G. Medical teams go. The doors burst open. Teams of medics rushed in with hover stretchers and emergency equipment. They spread out across the chamber, reaching cadets in order of proximity to the exit. Yang had collapsed completely. He lay next to one, both humans unconscious, but they were 15 meters from the exit now, within range of immediate extraction. Rushed into the chamber as soon as the gravity hit 1.2 G, he ran to where the humans lay. Medical teams were already working on them, checking vitals, stabilizing injuries. Prognosis demanded. "Critical but stable," a doctor reported. "Multiple compressed vertebrae, torn muscles throughout the body, possible internal bleeding. They'll need weeks of recovery, but they'll live." And the others, the cadets they moved. All 23 are alive. Without the humans moving them closer to the exits, we would have lost at least 10 of them, maybe more. Looked at the 4 humans being loaded onto stretchers. They looked so fragile, so small compared to most galactic species. Their bones were lighter. Their muscles were denser but not as large. By every physical metric, they should have been the first to fall at high gravity. Instead, they had been the last ones standing, moving, fighting, saving others. A cadet that one had tried to help was sitting up, breathing through an oxygen mask. He looked at with tears in his yellow eyes. "The human saved me," the cadet said. "He couldn't even see, he was blind from the pressure, but he found me and pulled me toward safety." Why would he do that? Had no answer. He had trained warriors for 20 years and thought he understood what made a good soldier: strength, speed, tactical thinking, adaptability. He had never considered that the most important quality might be something else entirely, something the humans had in abundance: the absolute refusal to give up, even when giving up made perfect sense. The medical teams wheeled the humans away toward intensive care. Followed, his mind churning with questions. What kind of world created a species like this? What kind of evolution produced beings who could function at 4G when there was only 1G? What kind of culture taught them to save others before themselves? He needed answers, and when the humans woke up he would ask them. Outside the chamber, word was spreading throughout the academy. Human cadets had saved 23 aliens during a catastrophic malfunction. They had moved at gravities that should have killed them. They had done the impossible. The story was already being called the Gravity Chamber Rescue. And across the galaxy, militaries were starting to ask questions about this new species called humans. Questions about their capabilities, their determination, their worth as allies. Earth had been a footnote in galactic politics, a minor species recently discovered, barely worth noticing. That was about to change. One woke up to white ceiling panels and the sound of medical equipment beeping. His entire body ached in ways he didn't know were possible. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. "Don't move," a gentle voice said. A doctor with blue skin and too many eyes leaned into his view. "You have 3 compressed vertebrae, torn muscles in both shoulders, and significant internal bruising. You will heal, but you must rest." "My squad," one croaked. "Alive, all in the same medical wing. You will see them soon." Memories came back slowly. The chamber, the crushing gravity, the feeling of his body breaking, and the absolute certainty that he had to keep moving, had to save the others. "The other cadets?" he asked. The doctor's expression softened. "All 23 survived. You and your squad saved them." Over the next few days, one learned the full story. The chamber malfunction had been a complete accident, a failed coolant line that triggered emergency protocols. The investigation found no fault in the instructors or technicians. It was just bad luck. But the response to that bad luck had become legendary. Visitors came constantly. Cadet after cadet stopped by the medical wing to thank the humans. The Burdalians brought flowers from there. They came with traditional foods. Even the rock-skinned aliens, normally stoic and unemotional, expressed their gratitude. On the third day, visited. He stood at the end of one's bed, his forearms clasped behind his back. "I owe you an explanation," said, "and an apology." One tried to sit up more comfortably. "Sir, I voted against human admission to this academy. I believed your species was too fragile, too weak for military service. I thought you would wash out in weeks." Yellow eyes met one's. "I was wrong. We're not stronger than most species," one said. "We struggled with everything. The obstacle course, the gravity training, all of it." "Strength is not only physical," replied. "I have been studying your species files. You're as 1G lighter than most civilized worlds. By all logic, you should have been the first to fall at high gravity. Instead, you were the last still moving. Why?" One thought about it. Earth is 1G, but that doesn't mean it's easy. We have mountains that kill climbers, oceans that drown swimmers, deserts that bake travelers, whether that destroys cities. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us constantly. We learned to adapt or die. "But that doesn't explain moving at 4G, Prest. Your biology shouldn't allow it." "Maybe our biology is different because of where we came from," Sun's voice called from the next bed over. She was sitting up, covered in bandages. "I've been thinking about this. Most species evolved on worlds with stable, predictable gravity between 1.1 and 1.3G, their bodies optimized for those conditions. But Earth has 1G exactly, which meant we developed differently. We're not optimized for heavy gravity, but we're also not limited by it the same way." Nodded slowly. "The medical reports support this. Human bone density is 30% higher than galactic average. Your muscle efficiency under pressure is exceptional. Your pain tolerance is," he paused, "abnormal." "Marines," Yang called from his bed. "We're Marines. We train until things that should break us become normal. That's what we do." "But even that doesn't fully explain it," said. "Explain to me why you kept moving when you were blind, when your bones were cracking, when every logical reason said to stop. What makes humans do that?" One met the instructor's eyes. "Because people needed help. That's all the reason we needed." Stood silent for a long moment. Then he did something one had never seen before. The bowed, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. "I came here believing I would teach you about being warriors," said. "Instead, you taught me. I request permission to continue as your instructor, if you will have me." "Of course, sir," one said. After left, Nayung spoke up from her bed. "Did that really just happen? Did one of the toughest instructors in the academy just ask us for permission?" "I think so," Sun said, sounding as surprised as everyone else felt. The weeks passed. The humans healed slowly but steadily. Physical therapy was painful, but they endured it. By week 3, they were walking. By week 6, they were training again at light intensity. The academy had changed around them. Human admission was no longer questioned. In fact, a dozen more human squads arrived during the humans' recovery. Earth had decided to increase its military presence in the galactic community. More importantly, the training programs changed. The gravity chamber incident prompted a full review of safety protocols, but it also changed how the Academy viewed the purpose of training. It used to focus purely on physical capability, commandant or announced in a general assembly. We tested strength, speed, endurance, but 4 humans showed us that the true measure of a warrior is not what they can do for themselves, but what they will do for others. From now on, all training will include scenarios testing not just individual capability, but sacrifice, teamwork, and courage under impossible circumstances. 3 months after the incident, graduation day arrived. Human Squad 7 had been cleared for participation despite their injuries. They stood in formation with the other graduating squads, wearing their dress uniforms. Only 32 cadets graduated out of the original 200. The 30% success rate held true, but standing among those 32 were 4 humans who had every right to be there. When one's name was called, 23 cadets stood up in their seats. The cadets that Human Squad 7 had saved. It was a traditional gesture of respect, reserved for those who had saved your life. One walked across the stage, commandant or presented him with the star, the highest honor the Academy could give. Speech, the commandant prompted. One stood at the podium and looked out at hundreds of alien faces. He took a breath and spoke. People ask what makes humans special. We're not stronger than, we're not faster than, we're not smarter than many species here. But Earth is a hard world. Every human lives their entire life at 1G, and while that's lighter than many of your worlds, it's still heavy enough to teach us something important. You keep moving or you die. He paused. We don't quit because quitting on Earth means failure, and failure means death. That's not special to humans, that's just what Earth taught us. He looked at the cadets who had stood for him. But here's what we learned from all of you. Everyone has their own gravity to overcome. Every species faces their own challenges. We're not better than anyone here. We're just prepared differently. And if you ever face something too heavy to bear, something too crushing to survive, remember one thing. Humans are really good at carrying weight, and we'll be there. The hall erupted in applause. Not polite, formal applause, but genuine appreciation. Cadets stood. Instructors nodded with respect. Even, standing at the side of the stage, placed all 4 hands over his hearts in a gesture of deep honor. After the ceremony, Human Squad 7 gathered together for the last time as cadets. Tomorrow, they would receive their assignments. So, Yang said, we actually did it. We graduated from the most elite military academy in the galaxy. We almost died doing it, Sun pointed out. But we didn't, Nayoung said, and we saved 23 people in the process. What do you think we'll do next? Yang asked. One looked at his squad, his friends, the people he had suffered with and fought beside. Whatever they need us to do, that's the job. 5 years later, Human Squad 7 served together in the Galactic Defense Force. Their unit specialized in high-gravity world operations and extreme environment rescues, commanded their entire division. They had seen action on a dozen worlds, rescued civilians from collapsing colonies, held defensive positions that should have been impossible to maintain, earned a reputation across the military as the unit you called when the situation was impossible. They called themselves the Heavy Squad. It was both a joke about their gravity chamber experience and a statement of purpose. When things got heavy, when situations became crushing, when everyone else fell, they kept moving. One was reviewing mission reports in his office when entered. New assignment, they said, placing a data pad on the desk. Colony world under siege. Gravity is 3.2 G. Hostile forces have surrounded the civilian population. Conventional forces can't operate effectively in that gravity. One looked at the numbers. 3.2 G, the same gravity that had almost killed them in the chamber 5 years ago. The same gravity where he had learned what humans were truly capable of. When do we leave? He asked. Tomorrow morning. I told command we would take it. Paused. Is that acceptable? One smiled. You know the answer to that, sir. We don't leave people behind. I know, said. That's why I volunteered us. That night, one stood in the training facility. The gravity chamber had been rebuilt after the accident, with better safety protocols and fail-safes, but it still served the same purpose, preparing warriors for the harshest conditions. He stepped inside and set the gravity to 3G. The weight settled on his shoulders like an old memory. It was heavy, crushing, difficult, but not impossible. He started doing push-ups. Somewhere on station, a new class of cadets was beginning their training. Among them were more humans, sent from Earth to serve in the galactic military. They would face the same challenges, the same doubts, the same crushing gravity that had tested Human Squad 7. But they would also hear the story. The legend of 4 humans who refused to quit when physics said they should break, who moved when biology said they should be still, who saved others when logic said to save themselves. The story of the gravity chamber rescue. And they would learn the same lesson that one had learned 5 years ago. Humans weren't special because they were stronger or tougher than other species. They were special because when everything said to stop, when the weight became crushing, when the situation became impossible, they had a simple response. Keep moving, keep fighting, keep carrying the weight. Because someone, somewhere needed help. And humans were really good at carrying weight. In a training room on the academy, a young instructor was showing new cadets the gravity chamber for the first time. One cadet, a 6-armed species known for their strength, asked the question that all cadets eventually asked. Has anyone ever kept moving past 3.5 G? The instructor smiled. Once, 5 years ago, 4 humans kept moving at 4G. One of them was doing push-ups. That's impossible, the cadet said. That's what everyone thought, the instructor replied, until humans proved otherwise. That's the lesson of this place. What seems impossible is just something nobody has done yet. And usually when someone finally does it, when someone breaks through that impossible barrier. The instructor paused, looking at the human cadets in the group. It's going to be a human.